Greetings, YouTubers. Welcome into DFSArmy.com's DFS Diary. I am your host, Chapadong, and today we're going to talk about a short slate, NBA slate, instead of that big main that's stretched all across from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. tonight. NBA, as you know, is very, very critical in late-breaking news, and that's where you're going to gain your edge, is by being able to follow that. If you start your games at 3 o'clock and you don't have a late swap, then that late breaking news can completely screw up your lineups. It ruins your edge because somebody gets lucky that their player didn't get scratched down the road, and now you're just gambling. I try to play only when I have an edge. That's what I try to recommend to all of my players. So let's dive in, take the 3-game slate where we can gather some news throughout the day and give ourselves maybe a statistical or a skill advantage. I am Chapadong, of course, I'm content editor at DFSArmy.com. Follow me by clicking like, clicking subscribe, hitting the notification bell. You can always follow me out here on Twitter at Chapadong, of course. And I love talking any of the major DFS sports inside our Slack channels. You can find me inside there, following the link in the description down below. DFSArmy.com. Use coupon code CHOP, CHOP. Trigger that 20% off discount. Get in here and start making better lineups today. That's what I want to do. I want to help you make fundamentally sound lineups. I just gave you one tip about spreading out across the slate today, or focusing on the smaller slate when the rest of the slate is spread out. And let's kind of dive in now and assemble a little bit of a player pool. NBA 3-game slate, 8 p.m. I've already selected off the 6 teams that are playing. We're going to dive in, sort by the and one player pool. And we're going to go position by position. And we're going to talk really quickly about who should be on your core. And we're going to narrow it down to about 25 players today. So once I get this sorted out, your top 3. We don't need 10 or 12 players per position. We don't have a huge slate. We can operate on a very, very tight core tonight and really give ourselves a better chance at avoiding a lot of those turd traps. Steph Curry, Damian Lillard, Ben Simmons. These are your top 3. And that's what I'm focused on right now. When I go to shooting guard, Harden, Klay Thompson, Butler does play, doesn't play, as being questionable. You have to follow the news there. So Donovan Mitchell makes the pool. Top 3 there. Kevin Durant, Brandon Ingram, Wilson Chandler. Wilson Chandler's possible drop score candidate. Notice how quickly that and one rating dropped off. That's going to put an awful lot of weight on Kevin Durant tonight. Draymond Green, Kyle Kuzma, and PJ Tucker are your power forwards. DeMarcus Cousins, not a lot of minutes. That one's going to be interesting. Embiid is questionable, so Gobert and Looney make the list. You might even include Nurkic if you really, really want to. That'd be one where I would get outside of that realm a little bit. But that is roughly, 20 players right there. Well, I guess it's 3 times 5 is 15 players-ish right there. Let's sort by value, and let's add just a little bit more to that player pool, because you saw some big names and some big prices there. We're going to need to balance it out. Let's find out who has the best value rating per projection. Now, I'm going to want to see minutes. I don't want 20 and 21 minutes unless I absolutely have to take it. I go back to point guards. Guess what? It's the same 3 guys. Same 3 guys have the best value rating on the slate, and it's a terrible value rating at that. Nobody's even close to 5x. So that's just buying raw points with those salaries at that point, hoping one of them goes off. KCP pops onto the value list. Klay stays there. JJ Redick pops in. So I'm going to put a V next to Klay Thompson on my list. Remember, I write these down off to the side, and the reason I do that is so that I can get a helicopter view of the slate instead of having to click through all of these tabs. I get a better idea at who I like and where when I can see them all right there on one sheet of paper. Lance Stevenson, Wilson Chandler, Kevin Durant. Durant's on the list again, so he gets a V. Chandler gets a V. Stevenson's new and is a drop score candidate at 23 minutes. I don't want to take him unless I absolutely have to. Even at 6.4x, this one sometimes is a turd trap because he needs to actually be used in the games. Kyle Kuzma, Draymond Green, Aminu pops onto the list. So these 2 are getting the V next to their name, and Aminu's new. DeMarcus Cousins, again, low minutes, but we know what he can do. If they increase those minutes a little bit, we know what he can do. Zubac, Embiid, Nurkic. These are going to be my values. Nurkic or Zubac's obviously another drop score type of candidate. Hopefully 4,300 is a low enough price that it helps us with a little bit of salary savings and get some of those other guys on our list into our lineups. But you never know. That's saved for the lineup building phase. This is just the entry-level research phase. These are the guys we're going to have to dig into a little bit and look into when it comes to our research. Why are they getting more minutes? Why are they running hot? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when I scroll back over, just go right down the list again. If they're on all 3 lists, they're going to be a core play of mine. This has worked out really, really well over the past week or so in using it. Not a lot of points being scored, not super hot per se, but up over the rest of the field. And in the 3-game slate, that's oftentimes what we're looking for. Again, a lot of times you're going to take a look at a larger slate and you're going to see the fact that there are all these players on it that are great, and I'm not considering any of these guys. You go to the 3-game slate, all those other top plays fall off, and then all of a sudden somebody like Damian Lillard becomes an absolute lock because he's the best that the slate has to offer, and that's okay. So with 2.7 points in our favor, Lillard, Shemet, whatever, and TJ McConnell, it's interesting. That's, I don't like the point guard position one bit. I would stick with the bigger guns and look for my value elsewhere. So when I come down here, is a little bit hotter running players at shooting guard, but again, we're kind of all over the place. Butler, Gordon, Harden. Harden's on the list. He's not on the value list, but he is on the hot running list. So I would definitely consider that. Looks like shooting guard's a little bit wider open tonight. A lot of people are going to run to Austin Rivers, or they have been lately, so that one's interesting. When I look at small forward, Gary Clark, Royce O'Neal jump on that list. If I look over here, running 6 points or so above their average, and Durant running 7 above his average. Kevin Durant is on all 3 lists. Damian Lillard is on all 3 lists. Those are core plays. O'Neal or Clark might be a drop score or a deeper value type of play. I'll explain something to you here in a minute about how these moving averages, this 3-game versus 10-game thing works and why it's important. In fact, let's do it right after we knock these guys out. 6 to 10 points running above average or above his baseline. Tucker, Kuzma, Draymond Green. Draymond Green and Kuzma made both lists, hot and value lists. Therefore, they're core plays tonight. You may or may not need an Aminu or a Tucker or somebody to balance out and bring a little bit of value. You may be able to take value elsewhere. This 3-game versus 10-game is really just taking the 10-game average and the 3-game average and subtracting the difference and showing you plus or minus how that 3-game average is running according to the 10-game. If you use a little bit larger baseline and then a little bit smaller sample, you can see how it gets hot and cools off and gets hot and cools off faster than that 10-game sample. And to show you graphically what I'm talking about, I like to use this little thing right here. Because as you use the 10-game baseline, it doesn't move up and down quite as rocky as a 3-game or a 5-game baseline does. And that allows a little bit of stability in being able to predict what the guy typically scores. And then I look at the 5-game or the 3-game sample size and throw it on top, and it's going to bounce up and down across this line. When it crosses over from running below the bigger baseline to above the bigger baseline, that's a buy signal where it crosses. That tells me I should probably start riding that train. Then as he cools off and it gets below, see, as long as he's above his 10-game price, he's still bringing a little bit of value to me. Once he crosses over, he becomes overpriced. And this is a sign to get off the train. Now, sometimes you time it wrong. That happens everywhere. But these baseline, evaluations where you kind of transpose or overlay a smaller baseline onto a larger baseline, you can start to see when you can start timing these players with buy and sell signals. Okay, it's one of the key factors. You can use it in NHL, you can use it in MLB, you can use it in NBA, of course. These are sports where you can really, really use these baselines to your advantage. It gives you a skill advantage in being able to be correctly on those players when you need to be, and then getting off of them before the rest of the industry does. So scroll back over. We've got centers to go through, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this video up and send it off. Gobert, Zubac, and Looney. Zubac makes the hot list too, which is very, very intriguing. This is going to require some research as to why. Gobert 13 games above his 3-game average versus his 10-game average is a very, very hot indicator. Somebody you should definitely consider, although the price is very, very high. You're going to maybe need to save some money at the center spot tonight. These are guys that you would be considering. So again, you've got your player list. You've got about 25 names: Curry, Lillard, and Simmons at point guard, Harden, Klay Thompson, Donovan Mitchell, KCP, Redick, Gordon at shooting guard, Kevin Durant, Ingram, Wilson Chandler, Lance Stevenson, Clark and O'Neal at the small forward, and then Draymond, Kuzma, Tucker, and Aminu at power forward. Cousins, Embiid, Gobert, Looney, Nurkic, and Zubac are your centers. Along with that list, you've got H's and V's if you followed along. And I know I didn't show you graphically, but you've got your and one rated best matchups on that list, and then you've got your little V next to them if they also appeared on the value list, and then you've got your H next to them if they also appeared on the hot list. Now, you take the and one list, the H's and the V's. If all three of those go next to a player's name, bam, they become one of your core plays. They're checking a lot of different boxes today. That's Damian Lillard, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, and Kyle Kuzma. They're bringing value, they're running hot, and they've got great matchups tonight. They should be very, very strongly considered to be in your. You should, if you can get 4 out of 4 in your lineup, try it. If you can, maybe need to drop one off and pick up, make 3 out of 4. That's fine too. Take other value plays, however you need to make that work. Now, the difference between these GPPs and cash game type situations with the NBA and the smaller slates, you're going to want to lean more GPP because if one of these guys has a blow up game, you're going to need him, especially with ownership being consolidated or concentrated in the very, very chalky players. That's going to lead to somebody having the correct player. And that if enough people have that correct player, it's going to make it like say Harden goes for 85 points tonight. It's going to be very hard to even hit a 50-50 if you don't have Harden. Okay, so there you're going to lean a little bit more toward GPP. You're going to have more boom or bust nights on these shorter slates. You don't need to worry about ownership quite as much as people will tell you. And the reason why is on these short 3-game slates, the tournament sizes just aren't there. The reward for winning that tournament typically is not large enough to validate taking the risk that you're going to take when you fade off those very, very chalky players and pick up some lower owned goofy play. That's the idea. It's all risk and reward in this game. You need to get paid if you're taking big risk, you need to get paid big. So if you're going to fade somebody who's going to be very, very chalky, like a Kevin Durant or a James Harden or something like that, you'd better get paid to do so. And these smaller slates typically don't allow that to happen with the smaller contests. So you stay a little bit more fundamentally sound. You stay a little bit more inside the chalk. You stay a little bit more, inside the what's likely to happen, playing the large numbers. Because again, you're trying to make sure that you get into that top 20% as often as possible, and then you kind of just let the night dictate where you go from there. You may make one goofy play, maybe instead of Draymond Green and Kyle Kuzma, you run an Aminu in there for savings, and you pay up from a Zubac to a Boogie Cousins or something like that. That's a lot of people probably like Cousins, but that might be one little way you would get a little bit off kilter. Another one would be to instead of like a Wilson Chandler, maybe you run a Royce O'Neal because he's running hot, and that gets you a little bit. It's just little bitty subtle changes like that that are going to make big differences in your lineups, and that might push you over the top. I would expect scores to be pretty tightly crammed on smaller slates. Typically, what happens, I would expect you're going to need to watch the news around 7, 8, 9 o'clock tonight before these slates tip off, depending on your time zone. And you're going to need, hopefully you've got access to the coaching channels that we have where our coaches are throwing those news and pivots out to you so that you can then adjust this list as necessary. You've got a good 6-7 hours to percolate on this list, to play with the Domination Station Optimizer, to do whatever it is you need to do to fine tune your list. But we've already got it knocked down to about 25 key plays, 4 core plays, and your night should be set very, very well just from that entry look alone. We did it all in less than 15 minutes, and I'm still babbling a little bit about strategy here. So hopefully you guys want the coaching. You guys want a little bit more of the insight that we offer inside DFSArmy.com. If you do, head down to the comments section, click the link, DFSArmy.com, use coupon code CHOP, CHOP. Trigger that 20% off. As always, like and subscribe to the video, ring the notification bell so you get tips to every video that I put out, because I put out a couple a day, it seems like, through the weeks now, through the weekdays. And then, of course, run out onto Twitter where I've also got this video popping up, and give me a retweet. I would really appreciate helping spread me around. The more people I help, the more people I can enter into February sweeps, which is something we're getting ready to do here in another couple of weeks. We've had a slow start to the year, but we're starting to pick up speed as we wind down through January and enter into February. I'm buying at least one membership this month. I would love to buy a couple, but to do that, we need more people to take the leap of faith, join the army, and jump on inside, and use the links and the coupon codes to do so, because that's what helps me help you. Thank you guys for all the support. Love talking to you guys. Love to talk to you more inside DFSArmy.com today. So come on in and we will set up shop and start talking some basketball, hockey, PGA, whatever it is you want to talk about, and we're going to make you a better player. Thanks a lot.